Welcome to Birch Banter. I'm Connor Burse.
I'm Jake Deball.
And I'm Ethan Reichel.
We've got a great show for you today. Meta is introducing an ad-free experience, and Jake picks apart some PPC tips I found on Google. Let's get to it. Meta has introduced ad-free subscriptions for Facebook and Instagram in Europe, allowing users to pay a fee for an ad-free experience. The service costs $9.99 per month on the web and $12.99 on iOS and Android. It seems like they were pushed into this to appease European regulators. There are not any plans to roll this out in North America right now. My initial reaction to this is that a user on Meta, Facebook, and Instagram is probably worth way more than the $9.99 in advertising revenue than it would be just a pure subscription. After all, Meta is an advertising platform first and foremost. But I dug into it a little bit, and sure enough, in 2022, the average revenue per user for Meta is $3.30. So every single user on Meta is earning them $3.30 every single month. But that's not the most accurate way to look at this because the vast majority of users are not active. So we probably have to look at like the 15 or 20% of users that are generating the vast majority of revenue for Meta. And my initial hunch that $9.99 per month is not very attractive for Meta at the end of the day probably still holds true. The average user actually consuming ads is worth way more than $9.99 in my opinion. So as an advertiser, it does seem a little, that people can opt out of these ads, but I don't think Meta has any incentive to actually push this into other markets. And I don't think they have any incentive to actually push this onto the markets that this is released for. I don't think they'll be advertising it very much. And if it's not working, I think they'll just quietly sunset it in a little while. Jake, what are your thoughts about an ad-free Meta experience?
It's definitely an interesting concept, and I'm intrigued to see the percentage of people who will sign up for that. My initial thoughts is on the Meta platforms, the ads aren't nearly as intrusive as those on, say, YouTube. Because when you're on YouTube, your content is locked behind the ads. Everyone gets really annoyed when, an ad comes up before the video that they're trying to watch and you have to wait 5 seconds to skip. Sometimes you have to wait the whole 15-second ad. And sometimes they put a second ad behind the first ad. On the Meta platforms, it's a lot easier just to scroll past the ads to get to the content that you're there to see. I have a feeling not many people will go for it, even with the heavy Meta users.
So this goes full circle, and they're just rolling this out to appease the regulators. They just want to be able to give the option to Europeans, we're not going to vacuum up your data if you want to pay. Otherwise, it's your choice. And regulators just got to throw their hands up at the end of the day and go, well, users have the choice now.
I feel like Meta is trying to implement people being able to buy a program to get rid of their ads is because they've seen a lot of success with platforms like YouTube and Peacock, where people are paying a lot of money to skip through ads, at least for my age demographic, which is early 20s. I know a lot of people who personally do spend that extra few bucks a month just to get rid of the ads, just make their media use a lot simpler.
How about what Elon just did with X, where you can pay for a almost ad-free service? You just get fewer ads. Anyone in your age demographic liking that in your sphere?
Definitely. I think a lot of people, if you have the money to do it, it's kind of a why not. If you're already going to be on your phone looking through these platforms for information, why not have an easier experience?
So do you know actually people that pay for X right now?
Not X per se.
Yeah.
I know I watch a lot of videos on YouTube. I learn a lot on YouTube, so I do pay for the premium YouTube subscription just because it saves me 2 minutes on every video.
Yeah, that goes to what Jake was saying, was that you're locked out of the content until you consume it, so then you're willing to spend the money on it. But on these other platforms, it's just scrolling past it. But you made a good point about simplifying the experience and not getting distracted.
Yeah, I feel like you log on to these certain platforms just for one specific reason sometimes, and it's a lot easier to have that simpler experience.
I may be alone in this one too, but with how personalized the ads have become over the past couple of years, every once in a while I kind of like getting an ad that's like perfectly targeted at me. I'm like, oh, I love this. I want to buy it.
When people are polled about targeted advertising, they will say, no, I don't want to be tracked. And then in the same survey, they'll ask questions that will ask it in the same way, but in a roundabout way. And the vast majority of people like the interest-based tracking ads. because it's relevant to them. In fact, they're only upset generally when the ad doesn't make sense for them. You know, a dog bed, and you're like, I don't like dogs. What are you doing? You know?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, is sometimes the ads can kind of remind you of things you want or you need. Like we got the holidays coming around the corner, and my mom was asking me, what can I get you for Christmas? And typically it's like, I don't know, but then I'll see some things in ads and be like, oh, okay, like that'd be a good gift that you could get me. So, you know, it's nice to have reminders of like, hey, like you're into golf. You want any golf shirts?
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
Instagram ads especially, those are the most engaging ads for me. I do click on a lot more Instagram ads than I should.
Yeah.
Is it the feed or is it the stories?
So I normally click through Reels. I watch
The Reels.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I watch a lot of Reels, and there'll always be ads popping up in between them, but they always seem to be very engaging just for what I like to do in my personal life.
For me, it's the feed.
Interesting. Everyone's usage is just a little bit different.
Yeah.
And that's why we advertise on all the spots, right?
Yeah.
How about TikTok's live video shopping ads? Have you seen those yet?
I have.
Yeah.
I don't watch a lot of live on TikTok.
I mean, with TikTok, do you choose to watch anything, right? You just kind of flip over and then it's like someone showing you something. It's pretty weird.
Yeah.
I've seen some controversial takes on it. Some people hate it. Some people love it.
Yeah.
I feel like TikTok's a lot more broad with the quality of the products they promote.
Really?
That could just be completely personal. I've bought products off TikTok and I've bought products off Instagram. The Instagram ones typically tend to be a little better quality.
I wonder if that's because the market on Instagram is a little more mature. Ads are a little bit more expensive. And on TikTok, the technology is a little bit newer, not as many people competing. So if you have a low quality product and a lower budget, you can just like hammer it out on TikTok right now. But on Instagram, to actually serve an ad and keep an ad, you have to have a little bit of success.
Yeah, I think that could definitely factor into it.
Yeah, that's interesting. So the question of the day is, would we pay to get rid of all those ads? Jake, it sounds like no for you.
It's a no for me.
Yeah, I got to say, it'd be a no for me on Meta. I don't think I'd pay for it. YouTube, I do pay for.
Oh, well, and I think this is also kind of an important thing too, is think about all the subscriptions you have or you want that cost about $10 a month. I mean, there's a lot of them out there. So, you know, you can't just go in and sign up for every single subscription. So you got to pick and choose. And for me, if it's like being able to watch Hulu for $10 a month or not to get ads on Meta, it's a no-brainer for me.
Thanks for tuning into Birch Banter today. That will do it from us. I'll read us out. Thanks to Jake D-Ball, produced by myself, Connor Burse, and edited by Ethan Reichel.